Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Good Morning Eastvale. I'm so glad that you decided to either watch us or listen to us today. Today I'm joined by two amazing people at the City of Eastvale. We have our Community Development Director, Gustavo Gonzalez, as well as our Economic Development Manager, Alexander Fung. So we're going to start by having them introduce themselves, just give a quick little bio and some background. So we'll start with you, Gus.
Molly, thank you again for having us. It's great to be here. And I did grow up in Eastvale. I'm actually grew up as a dairy child here in Eastvale and went on to college at UC Riverside. And from there, I went to UC Berkeley for a master's in planning. And so got out of there, worked for the city of Fremont in Northern California for a little bit. I got homesick and decided to come back to Southern California. Came back, ended up getting a job with the city of Riverside, worked there for about 9 years or so. From there, went on to work for the city of Anaheim for about 6 years. And then from there, got a job with the city of Pomona for a little bit. And then there was an opportunity to come home essentially for me. And that's where I came here as a planning manager. And then in the last a couple of months, actually got promoted to be the community development director in the city, in my hometown. So I always tell people it just doesn't get any better than being the director of planning in your hometown. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my story there.
Yeah, and you were really born here. I saw your birth certificate.
I was. I showed you
yesterday.
my green card, and it showed, right, I was born 1981. I was on Chandler. So
yes. Well, congratulations on your promotion. Alex just got a promotion as well. It's so well deserved. The city is so blessed to have you both. So
thank you.
Alex, go ahead.
All right. Well, hard to beat Gus's story, I guess, but I was born and kind of raised in Hong Kong. I kind of immigrated here when I was 10, went to basically settle down in LA, did my undergrad at UC Irvine, did my grad school at UCLA. Then I kind of spent about close to 4 or 5 years working as kind of like a regional transportation and sustainability planner out there in LA. And a year ago, it was always my passion to get closer to working with residents and local businesses. So I moved down to the city level. And I was thankfully been offered as a senior management analyst positions at the city of Eastvale. And that was, I can't believe that was a year ago.
I know, a year you've been here?
I know, yeah. Actually, it's next week is my 1 year.
That is so crazy.
But so much has happened. But yeah, that's kind of my background. The past year has been great. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you both so much for being here. I know you're busy, so I appreciate it. So for this episode, we're doing something a bit different. I talked to you guys about it, but usually, I kind of write the questions, I collaborate with the guests. But this episode, I wanted to ask the community, what do they want to hear from us? And you guys were the perfect people to answer it because a lot of them are community development related, planning, economic development related. So we're going to ask questions that are specifically from the residents today. Awesome. So don't kill the messenger. These are from the residents. So something I want to talk about very first, because we get this question so often. We have a lot of people asking, they're emailing, DMing, coming to meetings to talk about just business attraction and retention. And they're asking about specific businesses, like, why don't we have this business or this business? So can you talk about, either of you, I don't know who wants to start, but can you talk about what's our role in really like attracting the businesses, retaining the businesses? How do we decide or not decide who gets to come to the city?
Awesome. Right. You want to take it, Alex? Go ahead.
All right, I'll take a stab. All right. I must say that is an awesome question. I get that question almost like every other day. So thank you. I'm glad that we can just share a little bit more. So a city or a local government plays a huge role when it comes to like business attraction and retention. So first and foremost, without getting into the weeds too much, is that a city kind of sets the zoning, the policy, the infrastructure, the traffic flow, everything to make sure that like the community has everything that it needs to sustain residents and businesses. So in that sense, Eastvale, we pride ourselves in being such a like business first, business friendly city. I know that we really try our best to go out there and talk to the businesses who are residents, and even I myself really want for the good of the community. We are and really with our city council too, like they're with a lot of these key conversations. So I just have to give the city council and the city manager a shout out for being so supportive and engaging businesses. And despite the fact that we have a lot to offer in Eastvale, our community is great. We have a very high medium income. really is a very safe community. It is a very family-oriented community. It is a highly educated community. To be honest, it is a very desirable community for many businesses. But the problem is, and some of the challenges include, even though we have the space to offer or the infrastructure to offer and like our permits are streamlined, a lot of the times is that perhaps the business is not interested in expanding at this time. Other factors can include that they have to figure out their logistics and like transporting their products into Eastvale. And sometimes for them, it may not make too much sense, at least in the interim. But nonetheless, we continue to have these conversations. We follow at least every like 2 or 3 months. Even if they said no, we will still follow up with them again and again and just see where things land in the near future. So rest assured, we have a lot of great resources to provide, and we're really working hard to get the businesses that our residents really want.
I guess to kind of sum up what both of you are saying, like giving it the 30,000 foot view is, you know, obviously we have an amazing community and we have so many desirable things here, but at the end of the day, we can't force a business to come. It's really always up to their discretion if they want to come. And so we can say, oh, we'd love to have you, but they always are welcome to say, no, thank you.
Right.
So
exactly.
I think that's something that the residents will sometimes, you know, they're like, why don't we have this? And we can ask and we can do our best to get them. But at the end of the day, it's not really always our decision.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that is something that I wanted to just sort of point out. So thank you for answering that. The next thing I want to dive into, and I know it's a bit of a hot topic sometimes and something we also get a lot of questions on, is what is the status of like the hotel and Hamner Place? And so can you talk about where we're at in that process and any timelines or details?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the hotel, which is at Hamner Place down on the south end of the city, everybody who drives by there sees this building that goes up and never gets finished, right? And so the status of that is that the developer hit a few snags along the way in the development process, and a lot of issues that arose on site, on the project site. But the good news is that it's moving forward. Last we heard from the developer, they're hoping to be open in spring of 2024. So if you've driven by there recently, you'll see that there's actually construction going on after, you know, several months of being closed. And so it is moving forward. So that's exciting to see. And it's actually our first hotel in the city. And it's an important thing because, you know, hotels, what they do is they bring a little bit extra revenue to the city. You know, there's this thing called transit occupancy tax that basically they have to pay when you stay in a hotel room. If you ever look at your tax, your bill when you get it, there'll be a little extra tax on there, and that's because most cities charge that. And it's a great way to be able to provide services to our residents because it brings in that little bit extra revenue. So hotels are a good thing for cities. And then the rest of the center is coming along as well. You know, Heroes opened back in April, which is great, and it's a great restaurant. I've seen it in other cities. Previous city where I worked in Riverside, great. The community really loved it, and it seems like it's done really well here. In addition to that, the Starbucks been open for a while, and then the rest of the center, there's a lot of exciting new projects coming there as well. And in restaurants, there's a couple of restaurants coming to it. There's a cafe that's coming, and as well as a ballet studio that's going to be coming there. So that's exciting, and that's all happening in 2024. And so it's almost there. It'll be done by 2024 from what we hear from the developer. But again, it goes back to that issue of like, you know, we can't force businesses to come here. You know, when they're ready to open up and they work with the owners to open, then we make it happen. But all we can do on our end is try to make it as simple as possible for them to get through the process.
Yeah. I'm really excited for the hotel to open because
Absolutely.
There's so many events that we're at all the time where we're like, man, I wish we could have this in the hotel and State of the City, the installation dinner. It would be such a perfect place, and we don't have a lot of hosting areas.
It's going to have a rooftop bar on it, so that's going to be great because it has a great view on the top. So it's going to be a great place to have events for the community. So
yeah, and like to add to that too, it's right next to Silver Lakes. Like there's a lot of opportunities with Hamner Place, like coming like fully online basically next year, and it's just like imagine the millions of people that Silver Lakes draws every year. Mm-hmm. And then it's very easy for those visitors to just go hang out at Heroes or stay at our new hotel. So it just brings in more like sales tax dollars into Eastvale. Definitely. So that's also another exciting part too.
Yeah, I was thinking about how they have booths in the park at Silver Lakes, and obviously all the soccer games and tournaments. And when I used to play sports growing up, we would always have to go to tournaments and then like stay in hotels. But, you know, now people have to stay outside of the city. And so if it's at Silver Lakes, they can stay there for soccer tournaments, sports things, you know, for boots in the park. Yeah. That is like the perfect location. They could walk to Heroes and eat. You could come visit us over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so.
It's a great, and that just goes to show you that, businesses are obviously looking for where it's going to be the most successful for them, right? And part of that is, again, going back to this issue of getting through the permitting process, right? Because they could have easily chosen to go in Norco, right? On the other side, they're still close enough, right? But it's just that developer found a path forward with the city, and they decided to come to us.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope
Yeah.
next year State of the City will be there, start
Yeah.
being able to host events. So something else I wanted to touch on, again, another hot topic we got a lot of questions about is our zip code advocacy work that we're doing right now. And we've done a good amount of outreach. I think we have it on the website. We do post about it. We have some press releases. But, there's still some people who are asking, why do we need an independent zip code? How is that beneficial to us? And what is this really going to get us in the future? So can you touch on, I guess, maybe a little bit of background about why are we doing this? And then what is this going to achieve for the community, and why this is something really important that we should all come together to work towards?
Yeah, all right, let's talk a little bit about our zip code situation. This project actually landed on my desk on my first day. And it's really been a long journey, but I do really want to share that there's so many reasons why having an independent zip code is crucial for our community. You may be aware that we currently share 2 zip codes with our neighboring cities. On paper, it may just be a postal code, but it runs into so many other issues, like our community identity projects are really impacted. We're still a new city. Our council is very determined and very passionate about creating a sense of community for Eastvale. But it's very difficult when a lot of our addresses says Mira Loma or Corona, and it doesn't reflect the right city. On top of that, because of the incorrect address labeling with neighboring cities, a lot of the companies sometimes charge sales taxes based on those jurisdictions, like outside of Eastvale. And you may be aware that Eastvale has a different sales tax rates than Corona, for example. Then there's billing issues, and then it runs into insurances, it runs into homeowner insurance coverages. And then on top of that, with incorrect addresses, then mailing deliveries get impacted. We actually heard an example from one of the local residents saying that her car broke down on one of the streets in Eastvale, but then AAA had a really hard time finding her where she is because the address is not correct. What it says on Google Maps or Apple Maps doesn't really reflect on where she is. And it's not the wayfinding platform's issues, it's just the address issue. And then think about how if that actually happens with first responders or in a major emergency, in those situations, every second counts. So in our, based on all the analysis that we've conducted internally, it is much more cost efficient and effective to address all these issues together by making sure that we advocate for an independent zip code rather than trying to solve each of these issues individually. And in all honesty, we're not really using any consultants. We're taking this in-house. We're very mindful of taxpayer dollars and just wanting to go with the most effective and cost-effective approach. So it's been really an uphill battle to get our independent zip codes, but our city staff, we're very determined. And yeah, I do want to just extend an invitation as well too. If you as a resident or if you are part of a community organization who really wants to learn more about the zip code, we're happy to come out and just not give a speech per se, but have a dialogue with your group or give a presentation. We'd just love to share more about what we're really doing at the city.
Yeah, and I just want to say props to you because I've been here 2 years. And I know they've been working on this project for 10 years. And then everyone's saying we've made more progress on this in the last year than our city's entire history and existence. So, props to you because you're really the lead of this project and you've done so much for it, gone to so many presentations, then just gone above and beyond, both of you.
It's taken us to Washington, D.C. with this project. That's how far we've gone. And we've gotten discussions with legislators, people who can actually change the law on zip codes. And so it's great to see. And I think we're closer than ever to actually realizing our own zip code than we've ever been before. And it's all thanks to Alex's work, honestly.
Yeah. And I have to say, it is really a team effort. It's the city council support, it's our city manager, it's the communications team, it is our executive leadership, it's our economic development team, it's everybody. So I think all of us, I'm just so grateful to have the support of like the council as well as our staff and so many community organizations. So it is a team effort.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, thank you for explaining the zip code and the advocacy and the importance of it. I want to transition a little bit and talk about the downtown. So in March of this year, we had our official groundbreaking ceremony. They're moving dirt now, so that's really exciting. But again, we still always get a lot of questions about what's going on with downtown, and I feel like we have a little bit more of like an official timeline, not official, but maybe like more of a projected timeline. So can you touch on maybe like a projected timeline, what's going on, maybe what can we see in the next few years?
Well, no, that's a great question, Molly. And I think downtown Eastvale is really the biggest, most important project in this city's history. Eastvale is a town that grew up over the last 30 years, and I was part of it. I was here since I was a kid, right? And I saw it grow up around us. It was all dairies, and what would happen is a developer would come in, buy 40 acres of dairy land, and build, 1,000 units, right, or whatever it was. And then they did that over and over. And so we grew up as a bedroom community really quickly. But we never, the traditional way of city growth over 100 years is there's a small little commercial core in the center and then the town built around it. We did it backwards, right? And we don't have that commercial core. We don't have that downtown. So this site here represents that. And so it's really exciting. And for me personally, coming back to my hometown, being a planner, being in this position, I can't think of a better position I'd rather be in than here. So it's really exciting. But the downtown is really bringing essentially 2,500 homes surrounding a core of a civic center and a commercial core. And that civic center will include a 50,000 square foot city hall. It'll include a police station that's about 20,000 square feet and a 25,000 square foot library innovation center with a 2-acre park and an open plaza. That's all the city civic center portion. So that is the part that the city is working on towards, and we're moving quickly on that one. We expect to probably be moving into our new city hall probably in about 3 to 4 years. So that's kind of the time frame on that. And then there's another 9 acres that falls within that area that the city has an ability to essentially build a downtown on. And we just got the go-ahead from the council to get in a development agreement with a master developer who's going to come in and build that portion of it. And that's going to be 500,000 square feet of retail, commercial, restaurants. One of the things that we emphasized on that project was that we did not want to have preference for the automobile. We wanted to have preference for pedestrians. And so you'll see that if you see that plan, there's no surface parking. It's all either structured or it's an underground parking, because we wanted to make sure that we made the land available to pedestrian type businesses and really create a sense of community in that area. And so if you've seen any other plans out there for that area, it's a beautiful plan, and we've been working with the community to really nail it down to what the community wants to see. And so that's an exciting project. Now that's going to take a little bit longer to get through because we still got to get the master developer on board. But I expect that to probably come within the next 5 to 10 years to be fully built out. But it is an exciting time in this city's history with the whole downtown area. So.
And something I wanted to bring up too is the Community Advisory Committee, because
Absolutely.
I think people might think, oh, like it's all the city and we're just doing whatever we want to do.
No, absolutely
But
not.
we've been going to these meetings that you have set up, and we have a bunch of community members there. They're sharing their thoughts, they're bringing photos, they're voting on things, they're totally involved in the process. And so I think there's a common misconception that, again, like we're just doing whatever we want to do, but it's not like that at all. And so we are building this to serve the community, and we want to listen to them. So, we did a survey about the names, and we're trying to look through the names right now, and we just hope that this is what the community wants and not just,
absolutely. We formed what we call a community advisory committee of about 20 to 25 people who basically have come together, and it's pretty much all residents. And we've been working with the architect and with the designers to really try to nail down what that civic center should look like, and so that's been an exciting project, and it's really great to hear that the community is really gravitating towards the design and what we're coming up with. So
yeah, I loved the last meeting when the architect was there and he was showing, all the different photos, and again, everyone was just willing and like welcome to say, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like this, or I do like this. And so again, nothing is set in stone at this point. I don't think
absolutely not.
It's all open to, thoughts and suggestions. So if the community has any thoughts or suggestions,
Well, we're happy to hear them.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to send us any kind of comments or input on this, and we're happy to share the plans. Anybody comes down to City Hall, we're happy to share them with.
Yeah, and we have a bunch of things on the website
Yes,
as well. So I
absolutely,
want to
yeah.
encourage people. We've had a lot of people ask about what is the site going to look like, and what do we have planned so far, and what's in the works. So they're all on the website, and we have them on, I think, the Eastvale Elevates website. Just tons of places. So
Yeah.
you can come down to City Hall, email us. We're happy to share the information. It's not a secret. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have anything to add on downtown?
Yeah, I mean, Gus pretty much covered it, but one thing that maybe I would add is if you're a business owner who is interested into going into downtown, I know that this is still more not like a long-term project, it's gonna happen quite soon, but if you're interested in going into downtown Eastvale, please do let us know. We're happy to just share more information about the site plan and kind of learn more about your vision.
Yeah, and something also I want to share is there's housing coming, but the area where all the businesses is going to be, and we have a library, innovation center, police station. That's like a huge portion.
Yeah.
So I think people too are like, oh, it's just gonna be like this little, like, we're getting 2 stories in a city hall and
Right.
it's housing, but
No.
there's a huge portion. So we'd love to welcome businesses.
Yeah, I mean, 500,000 square feet of retail is quite a bit of retail. It's a lot, and it's in a compact design, 2-story, really dense development. So we're really trying to create that downtown feel with this project. It's a project you won't see anywhere else in the Inland Empire. We talked to a lot of developers, and we keep hearing that, along the 15 freeway corridor, there's Victoria Gardens, there's Ontario Mills, there's Dos Lagos down in Corona, and we really are kind of that fourth pearl in that string because we're close to the freeway, and we want to be different than any of those. Each one of those is very different, and ours is going to be a much more compact development and very unique to anything else out there. And so we really are excited about that. And the vision has been set by the Leo Master Plan, and the City Council obviously has set that vision. And one of the things that we keep hearing is that we have to continue to stick to that vision, that we'll get developers who will come in and want to do something a little bit different. And our task has always been we got to stick to the vision because this is what the community has asked us for. So
The final question I want to ask that I always end the podcast with is just about, misconceptions behind maybe your job, the city, or any just things that you feel like you wish you could get up on stage and share. So like I said, I wanted to end the podcast this way. So I don't know whichever one of you would like to start, but is there anything you would like to share with the community about, your thoughts, your feelings, your job, any misconceptions that you want to address?
yeah, I'll take the first stab at that. So I think one of the things that often people, and I've experienced this all my career as a planner, is that you touched upon it earlier, which was, we're working in this vacuum and we're making decisions, and it's just the staff and the city council deciding everything for the city, and that's like the farthest from the truth. The reality is that we're really trying to balance as a staff and a council what the needs of the community are, and they're very diverse. They're not all the same. And so we always lead in with the public interest. As planners, we if you're a certified planner, you take an oath to say you're always going to put the public interest up front, and that's something that we take very seriously. Is what is it the community wants, but there's other factors at play here, and a couple of those things are, like, for example, state laws. You talked a little bit about housing. There's a state law that requires us to accept a certain amount of housing because housing is in short demand, in short supply, big demand. And so every city has to do their part, and the state requires every city to provide a certain amount of zoning for housing. So we have to accept it. And that's one of the reasons why the Leo project has so much housing. Other things that we have to balance it against is the market, right? The market conditions. We talked about that earlier. Is if the market isn't there, yeah, we could have all these great plans, but if nobody's coming and building it, it's never going to happen, right? And then there's all these interests in the community, right? You might have an opinion about something, but your neighbor might have a completely different opinion, and we got to take the whole of the community to be able to put something forward that matches that, right? And so all that together, and then the long-term viability of the city as well. We may be able to make a decision now that, kind of suits everybody and it has a short-term solution, but it's maybe not a long-term viability option for the city. We want to make sure that we're fiscally responsible in the long term, that we're, building something that is going to be here for a while, and it's going to support the community for many years to come. So all that together is how we make our decisions at the very end of the day. But again, we lead in with, believe me, everybody at City Hall is always thinking, what is this going to help? How is this going to help our residents, right? That's really how we all think as public servants. And I think the misconception is that no, we're sitting in our ivory tower here and just making decisions like we're playing God. And no, absolutely, that can be further from the truth. So.
Well, I feel like this whole episode has been like debunking misconceptions, because I think, with downtown, we're not making all the decisions, even with the housing. I kind of wanted to talk about it, but I know it's still kind of contentious. But,
Yeah.
It wasn't our like hope and dream and prayer that all this housing was coming. It was
No.
the state that said that we had to do that. And with businesses, we can ask businesses, but we can never force them to come. And so
Yeah.
all of these things that we get a lot of questions on every day, they really are just misconceptions, or people thinking that we're like out to get them and we're
Right. No,
just
absolutely.
these villains of the world.
Yeah.
But we're doing our best to serve the community. And I say this on a lot of episodes too, of just encouraging people to come to meetings, because people will get really upset about certain things, but then we have city council meetings and public hearings, and all of the downtown project. There has been a million times and opportunities to come forward, even the advisory committee. As long you just had to apply and you could be on the committee.
And those advisory committees, actually, we leave the last 10 minutes of those available for anybody who shows up from the public can provide input. So they're open to the public.
Yeah. So I think we're always looking for the input, but sometimes we're not even getting it. But at the end of the day, we're always doing what we can for the residents. So a lot of things are just, I think our most common questions are really just misconceptions.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we
Absolutely.
have been talking about them.
Right.
So Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great question. Maybe I can talk really quickly about what economic development is, because a lot of the times people ask me, it's like, hey, what do you do like as an economic development manager? And I kind of want to share that economic development is not really just about businesses, although they are important, definitely. But economic development is really about working with businesses, working with residents, working with like so many different parties, including all the community organizations and all the stakeholders in the community, to increase the quality of life in a city. So it's making sure that we have the right infrastructure, it's making sure that we have the right transportation, it's making sure that we have the right resources so that everybody can thrive and live the best life that they can. So yeah, it's really a big picture, but I just want to share a little bit about what economic development is. And I'm always happy to talk more if people have questions.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I want to end it with like a fun get to know you. I kind of told you we were going to do this, but I didn't tell you the questions, so they're easy. So this is the last thing I'm going to ask.
Awesome.
Okay, so we'll start with Alex, and then we'll jump right over to you. Okay, would you rather go to, or which one do you like more, Lantern Festival or International Food Festival?
Ooh, well, I was born in Hong Kong, so this is tough, but I would say Lantern Festival.
Lantern?
Yeah.
What about you?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm going to have to take international, obviously, because,
Yeah, we'll have to even it out.
I have to even it out. No, but I think it's a great event. I mean, obviously the food options are incredible there, right? So a little bit of it's a world tour where you get to do when you go to international, right?
Yeah,
So,
everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, next one is easy. Coffee or boba? I already know your answer.
Yeah, I kind of can't do caffeine, so yeah, boba.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think you can have coffee. Coffee or boba?
Simple coffee. My daughter loves boba, so we go and she can't have coffee unless I'm going to give it to a 10-year-old. But so it's a great pair. So we go out we go out and I get coffee and she gets boba. So
that's good. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you something. You got to be honest.
Ooh.
Have you ever listened to the podcast?
Yep, I did.
You did? Have you listened to the podcast?
Yes, I have.
Okay, some people haven't listened to it. Okay, so last question of the day. What is your favorite Eastvale memory?
Stay of the city, I would say. Stay of the city last year. I think it was just like I was 2 months in, but I think it was just very great to see, especially the videos too, actually. They were part of, it really shows how Eastvale has progressed it over the past couple of years. So for me, just being excited about building and expanding this great community, it just kind of shows so much potential and it gets me excited. So I really like the State of the City event.
That is like bringing a tear to my eye because State of the City is like my baby. So I'm glad
that's yours. Yes.
Yeah, that's like my passion project. So I'm glad you like State of the City. What about you?
So for me, it's going to be a very hard question, right? Because you said, what's your best memory of Eastvale, right? And I have obviously going back to the late 70s when I was
Yeah,
when you were old and I
that's
came
true.
here, right? So if I can maybe give you two,
Yes.
one is when I grew up in a very rural area, right? It was all dairies, and at that time we used to skateboarding was big, right? I remember not being able to skate anywhere because there was no sidewalks. It was all just roads, right? And I remember when the first kind of subdivision started to come in, and there was actually a place to go in the first commercial centers to go and actually like skateboard around. That was like to me a memory of our town is finally starting to come alive.
Yeah.
Like there's something here. We're not like
Finally.
in the middle of nowhere. But then as an employee in being here, I think I would say is the day that we approved the development agreement with the developer for the downtown. That day was a great day because we knew we were moving forward on something like this. We didn't know we were gonna be able to pull this off or not. But that day when the council approved it and the developer was there, it was a really exciting time because it meant that this was going to happen. So yeah.
Yeah, all your years
Yeah.
of hard work
Yeah,
finally coming
absolutely.
through. Now we have a lot more to go ahead of us, but that was starting. So
Yeah.
thank you both so much for being on the podcast. I had a great time. I hope the community has enjoyed it. And for all the listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope to see you next month. Thank you guys. So
Thank you,
bye.
Molly.